Good evening, everybody, and welcome to YesterQueer's Gay History Happy Hour. I'm your host, Scott Camp. Thank you guys for coming out tonight. Here, come on, clap for yourself. Before we get started, I want to take care of a few housekeeping items. If you haven't signed up for our newsletter, please do so on the sign-up sheet up front. Help yourself to a YesterQueer button as well. You're also, we have some information if you'd like some on anybody on types of items that we're looking to add to our archive. I'm happy to pass that along. We'll also have a QR code at the end of the talk if you want to do so digitally. I want to remind everybody that we will be recording tonight's discussion and broadcasting live on Facebook and YouTube. Hi, everybody out there on the interwebs. Give them an applause. Let them know that you're alive in here. We out there. We'll also be on our YouTube channel afterwards. As always, this is a casual discussion, so feel free to grab a drink at any time. Grab as many drinks as you like throughout the evening. Makes the conversation a lot more interesting. This is not a lecture, so feel free to raise your hand if you have any questions about. Without further ado, the name of tonight's show, you might recognize, or at least some of the older folks in the might recognize it, but I'll play you a little clip to see if it got your memory.
Dude, fuck with me, fellas! This ain't my first time.
Not Faye's first time, and it's not my guest tonight either. Without further ado, our topic tonight is not their first rodeo. The Texas Gay Rodeo Association has been riding high for more than 40 years. Our very special guest tonight is the 2024 TGRA Rodeo Director. Please give a warm welcome to Mr. Mac McMillan. Before we get into it with Mac, I wanted to just give you guys a little bit of context regarding the history of TGRA. The idea for gay rodeo started in Reno, Nevada in 1960. It inspired similar movements throughout the United States. The organization began to make its presence known in the early 1980s, at the same time that the LGBT community faced substantial societal stigma, discrimination, and the emerging crisis of HIV/AIDS. Amidst those challenges, the concept of a gay rodeo offered both the celebration of traditional Western culture and a supportive space for LGBTQ+ individuals and their allies. The Texas Gay Rodeo Association was officially formed on August 30th, 1983, making it one of the earliest state organizations dedicated to this cause. I'm not sure. Do you know when this picture was taken? This looks like pretty close to the beginning.
I actually have that picture. Oh,
you do?
Yeah, the actual photo. It was found in the attic in the 06.
Oh, really?
Before Park.
That's actually in front of us.
Yes, that's some of the original Fort Worth members from '83 when they first founded the TGRA here in Texas. And that's a bunch of the board members and all that here before my time. A couple of them I know. One you know, there's Stella up there, I see him, and there's a few others that I know.
Billy Moon and Bob Jackson.
Bob Jackson. That's a pretty cool picture. That's pretty old.
Yeah, that's awesome. I'm glad we have that, or at least a digital copy of it. TGRA was established not only to host rodeo events, but also to foster community spirit, provide support for its members, and raise funds for charitable causes. The International Gay Rodeo Association was officially founded in 1995 with members including Colorado, Texas, California, and Arizona. And the International Gay Rodeo Association currently has many member associations representing more than 20 states, the District of Columbia, and 2 Canadian provinces. The first Texas Gay Rodeo was held in November of 1984 in Simonton, Texas, about 35 miles outside of Houston, and it was the third state to stage a gay rodeo after Nevada and Colorado. TGRA rodeos mirror traditional rodeo events while also introducing some unique competitions, which we'll talk about as well. And beyond the rodeo arena, TGRA impacts the community as large, extending into community engagement and philanthropy. The organization has raised thousands of dollars over the years for various charities, focusing on LGBTQ health, youth, community service. But enough yammering on from me. Let's talk to Mac. So first of all, Matt, can you tell us a little bit about your personal journey and how you came to be involved with? All right.
It's been 27 years ago. I met my partner. He was in TGRA at the time. And we got together and I joined TGRA. Been here 26 years now, running these riding around these rodeos, producing them and working with them and just having a good time. And it's been really great. There's been some really great people that have come through our organization that have sistered with other organizations, but that have really brought our community a long way. I'm really proud of our history and of our, I'd say they're elders, because that's what I call the founders, that
Right.
the work that they've done to bring us to where we are today.
And did you come from a rodeo background?
Yes.
I did as well. I grew up going to rodeos. I wrestled a greased pig into a sack.
Right.
I still have the trophy for it.
Is that what they call it?
In like 70s, early 80s, I actually rode pro.
Excellent.
Bull rider.
So what were your main categories?
Bull rider.
Bull riding. Ooh, hard stuff. I did clover. So what did being a part of TGRA mean to you personally? Because this was part of your life that you had to kind of while you were doing it. I would
Totally.
assume.
Totally had to hide it because, especially growing up in the Fort Worth area,
Mhm.
the stigmatism here was so bad. It was really up until just the last few years. I'm going to say the last 10 years that we've been able to be an open, free society in Fort Worth, which we never had before. When you went to the 6, when I first started coming out, when we went to the 651 over here, you had to park in the neighborhood back over there and walk to the bar because you didn't want anybody to see your pickup around the bar there because it could mean hospitalization, being really bad. So, but that has all changed, and I'm really proud of what our community has become now.
So when you guys started, it was 1983. I know a lot of the organizations kind of had a home bar. Was it 651?
That was Fort Worth's main bar, was the 651 and the Corral Club down the street.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you go into this, even after I came along, go into the 6, and it was like elbow to elbow. We can say other things I'm not going to say there. And just the sea of hats as far as you see, cowboy hats. And it was that just the way the 6 was. The Corral Club, which was down there, which is a law office, I think now our dentist office.
Yeah.
And then there was several other bars that were around that have come and gone up, came up, went down, came up. Several bars around this area. This was the Oak Lawn of Fort Worth.
Right.
With the neighborhood, you might
The
say.
neighborhood, yeah.
Right.
Neighborhood.
But yeah, it was a different world, but it was a fun world. And once you got inside, you were in your safe haven.
Mhm.
You were there, and you could be yourself, and you could have fun and enjoy yourself, and have a cocktail and dance. And it was really eye-opening to me when I first started.
So this back in the 80s, this would still have been a very undeveloped area, kind of a little sketchy.
Mostly commercial.
Yeah.
This area down here.
Warehouses and things.
That kind of stuff, mostly commercial area, and yes, wasn't one of the best neighborhoods.
Right. So for some of the younger folks in the audience, Billy Ray Hill was kind of a local bar impresario. He had a vision of turning South Jennings into Oak Lawn for Fort Worth. He wanted to have multiple bars, businesses. I think at one point we had about 6 or 7 bars just in this area, including 651 across the street, a previously lumber company. This place was Crossroads Lounge. Come along in, 515, multiple bars.
Right. Nearly all your vacant lots around here used to be gay bars.
Yeah, yeah, percussions down the street. Yeah, it was a bunch of different ones. What was it like for you? Because again, when I came to Fort Worth to go to TCU, my first bar was Magnolia Station over on Magnolia, but I went to the 61, and it was a culture shock for me because I grew up in honky tonks. I mean, I was in the South Texas Trail Ride. We would ride horses to San Antonio every year. So that world, I was very much closeted. But then to walk into a gay bar where everybody was wearing cowboy hats, boots, and listening to country music, it freaked me out.
Yeah.
What was it like for you?
It was to me too when I first went in there, when I first came out. It was like, oh my gosh, there's a lot of my people in here. And of course, there was a lot of people in there that I didn't know were my people until I walked in the door. But it come to find out they were.
Uh-huh.
But it was a culture shock even to me growing up in rodeo all my life, and around farm and doing things of that sort. And then to come into the big city and see that, pretty cool. But it was a shock. You're right.
Mm-hmm. What are some of the most memorable experiences that you had in being in TGRA?
Man, there's been so many over the years. It's just unreal. I think it's the sense of camaraderie that we have built over the years with all of our rodeo friends and our rodeo family, and not just in TGRA, but in all across the nation. And we travel all over the country for rodeos, and even up into Canada. There was a big push at one time that Mexico was going to become a part of IGRA, which is International Gay Rodeo Association. But that just hasn't quite got there yet. There's still rumors and still talk about Mexico becoming a part of IGRA also. So memorable, the people, I think, is just the different backgrounds and different cultures that I've been able to experience from other parts of the nation and from other countries. We've had a lot of people from other countries that have come in here that have become a part of TGRA or a part of one of our member associations across the nation. And so I've got to meet a lot of diverse people and a lot of cultural differences. And it's really been exciting the whole year. The main thing is to me, my most thing is when I first came in, how bad HIV and AIDS was. And we were going to funerals daily, weekly. This was an ongoing, everyday event. And I think that's memorable to me because we're not doing that anymore. And that is phenomenal. We're not seeing, people are living with HIV and AIDS now because of our medications, because of everything. It was nothing for us to put on a show in Dallas, for instance, at the Roundup or at the Six. And y'all seen the drag shows. We'll raise $4,000 or $5,000. That's a good show. That's great. We raised $5,000. In the early 2000s, we would have a show like Hard Candy Christmas there at the Roundup, and that would be a $30,000 to $40,000 night, and it was unreal. And that was every show we did. But not only our shows, the Fort, the Bears, the Leatherman, we were all doing those shows. But you have to understand at that time, if you were diagnosed with HIV, you were out. Yeah. You had no job, you had no insurance, you had no food, you were kicked out of your house. If you were renting, you weren't allowed to live in that house anymore. So our community had to come together and literally take care of these people that had HIV and AIDS because there was nothing else to do. There was no government subsidy. And to be able to say, man, we only did $5,000, I said, no, I'm glad we're only doing $5,000. That means we don't need that money anymore. That's awesome.
At the time President Reagan was in office, he didn't even say AIDS. One of the things that struck me this particular time, there were a lot of major organizations that were founded right about the same time. You guys, the Imperial Court of Fort Worth Arlington, Trinity River Bears, Cowtown Leatherman, I think Gay Pride came along around the same time. But a lot of these organizations, you guys started in '83. I think AIDS, the first cases hit Fort Worth probably '85. So you had started
actually before that. Actually, early '80s.
Yeah. 80s. We were having cases on the coast and stuff, but I think we were kind of insulated at least for a little bit. And were you like right from the beginning? You had started an organization. Your purpose was we're going to have rodeos for LGBTQ people, and that's our purpose. And then all of a sudden, well, now we kind of have to refocus that idea, which is what all of the organizations.
It was a social club. Yeah, that's what TGRA was founded as, a social club, a place where we could go out, we could be together with other gay members of the community and have a good time, put on a rodeo. It was a gathering, a social club. And that's what it originally started out until the '80s when it had to take on a different role.
What was some of describe a little bit TGRA's work to foster the inclusive environment for members of the community and their allies? And I know when you guys first started, it was largely open to rodeo people who were interested in rodeo, but you very quickly opened it up to the community at large and got other people involved.
There's a lot that goes on in our rodeo. That we have a traditional rodeo. We have some other events that are not traditional rodeo, you might say. But we've involved a lot of the other organizations in our organization, such as the Court, the Leatherman, the Bears, the Gay Pride events, and that's helped to bring everybody together because I live by that old adage, it takes a village to raise a child, and it takes a village to raise this idiot, this child, that we call rodeo. And it's really all of us together, the community coming together and working together and interacting with each other. Us going to their shows, they're going to our events, supporting each other, interacting is what has really made the big difference across the nation. TGRA, for instance, right now we're sitting at, if we're not there, we're really, really close to right at $3 million that we have given back to the community in the state of Texas. So, and I'm really proud of that it's, so it's not just the money, it's the going to these people and seeing the smiles on their faces when they get something because they didn't have anything, or they get some toothpaste or a washcloth that they just couldn't get because of that. The sense that you get from helping people through our rodeo, and I still get because we still work with a lot of things with LGBTQ saves. Finn's Place is coming on board with us this year, it looks like. We're going to have Cancer Society, we've worked with them, the Samaritan House. Those organizations, now, a long time there was another organization here, it's called Wish for Wings, which was a stable out here that had horses that they would bring autistic children to. They didn't have to be gay or HIV or AIDS, but everybody autistic or had mental problems. And the phenomenal difference in a child once you get them up on that horse. These kids, it was fantastic because we go out there and they say, "Man, thank you." And the mother looks at us as that's the first time he's talked in 3 years.
Oh, wow.
That is right here. That's awesome. So we did a lot of work with them and a lot of the other communities across the state, and I'm very proud of our organization.
And also just throw in a little plug. YesterQueer will be at the TGRA Rodeo next month. We'll talk about that in a little more detail. But you've seen up front, we have some items from our archive chronicling the history of TGRA. We have some more stuff too that I didn't have room to put up here, but we'll have a little bit more there. You mentioned one of the things that came up that you mentioned were the reaction of the community in the city to the idea of having a gay rodeo here in Fort Worth. Can you talk a little bit about some of the challenges that you faced over the years? Because I know it wasn't always a fair risk.
We faced more opposition out of PETA than we did out of the Freight Company.
That's my editorial cartoon.
We got a lot of opposition out of them, and we've had a lot of protests for people to our rodeos. There was a time when all of our rodeos were Will Rogers. So we were kind of isolated away because of the way that is structured down there and with the security. So we were kind of isolated, but we've always had those protesters out on the corner, just like Gay Pride. They had the protesters. Everywhere we go, you have those protesters. But I'm seeing that those are fewer and fewer and fewer. People are starting to wake up. They're starting to realize that we're humans too. And that we're not going to infect their children with gayness. They're not going to catch it.
It's already in the blood.
Right. They're already there. Let me tell you, baby, if your baby is gay, he's already gay. You didn't just get that. But, so that opposition in Fort Worth was a lot worse than it was in most other communities in Texas, even, because of the stereotype Fort Worth cowboy, western, macho atmosphere that Fort Worth had. So the difference when you crossed over the Trinity River into Dallas was difference in daylight and dark. Fort Worth, it was really, really behind times for a long time before they found out. Houston, Austin, San Antonio, all the bigger cities were more accepting, and Fort Worth just kind of hung on to their old heritage and their old traditions for a long time, but they're finally coming.
We did. I did a post a while back. There was because you used to be over in one of the cattle barns over on Will Rogers area, right off University. It was one of the very first one of the ones that I went to. But there was a story. I remember you guys you were having, I guess, your opening party at the TNP building, and some nut job threw a smoke bomb into the lobby, wearing a rubber Santa Claus mask for all. And I think I actually found out what happened. It took us a minute of sleuthing to figure out who this guy was. So it was there were legitimate things that you had to be concerned about, and I think unfortunately we're sort of seeing some of that stuff rear its ugly head again, with Pride having to take extra caution because of our former president and some of his followers. So it's unfortunately something we're still struggling with a little bit, but I'm glad to see that the city has kind of come around.
I think it's running a cycle, and we'll go through these cycles probably from now on, where everything's great, and then it'll get bad, and then it'll get great, and it'll get bad, and that's kind of I say the circle of life. That's just the way it is, but it's not just against us. That goes on in every society. Today, everybody hates the Jewish population. Tomorrow, they love them. Tomorrow, everybody hates the Germans because of Hitler, but tomorrow they love them. So it's a cycle. I'm just seeing those cycles getting further and further apart, where they're coming around not as often. Yes, I'm not going to get off of politics if I can, but yes, our former president didn't do us any favors.
No, it didn't.
But they're even in the Republican Party, the Democratic Party, they're starting to figure out that it's not worth it. It's a lot easier to get along with us because we're a bunch of catty queens.
And we have lots of two-person income households. So what are some of the key events and activities that TGRA hosts throughout the year? Well, and also before we get there, you had mentioned some of the other cities in Texas. So Dallas, San Antonio, Houston, Austin.
We had 5 chapters for the longest. There was one in Dallas, one in Fort Worth, Houston, Austin, and San Antonio.
Okay.
They're all under the umbrella of TGRA,
Right.
but they were member chapters. And it's because the state is so large, it's hard to run a business out of Fort Worth or Dallas and cover all these states. And then they have their fundraisers for their communities and to govern that area of people. So they have a governing board just like everybody else. Like every chapter has a president, vice president, secretary, and treasurer in each city. But then we have our board of directors, and we are an incorporation. But we have our state board of directors, which is over everybody. And everybody really, there's not really a Fort Worth chapter or a Dallas chapter. It's TGRA. We're just kind of little fingers of TGRA. But they all do their own thing. Houston raises money. They do their shows, their fundraisers, and then their money that they raise every year goes back to, it stays in Houston and goes to their charities. Dallas is the same. Fort Worth is the same. Austin. And we don't have San Antonio anymore. That lost interest down there enough to where it went away. But there's some rumors and speculation that it may be coming back to where we can have another deal. And our rodeos used to rotate. We would start, like the rodeos were in Fort Worth this year. They'd be in Austin next year. The next year it'd be in Houston and in San Antonio and in Dallas. So every 5 years it was in Fort Worth. But those chapters raise money for their city and their deals, with the exception of the rodeo. People don't understand this. Not cheap to put on a rodeo. We got to pay our bills, so they raise that money. So the guys are really being good this year because I've threatened them. If y'all don't get out there and beat the bushes and get these sponsorships and get this money coming in from outside sources, we're a 501c3. We're governed by the Internal Revenue Service. And the Internal Revenue Service says we have to pay our bill. So I'm spending about $45,000 on this rodeo. I've got to come up with $45,000 to pay for it. And if I don't, then I have to get into their charity money. And that's that much less that they can get back to their communities. And so they've all said, Mac, you need my money alone? I'll go get you some money. And they're out there beating bushes and getting money. They don't want me getting off into their charity money. And that's the last thing we want to do. But every dime that we have goes back to the community in the state of Texas, within the state of Texas. Every penny. There is not one person in our organization that draws one penny, with the exception of our CPA, and we do have to pay a CPA to do our taxes. But our attorney does it free bono, pro bono. Everybody, nobody draws one penny. So every dime that you give to TGRA goes right back into our communities across the state, and that's what's really cool about it. You hear a lot of them, they say, "Oh yeah, we're a nonprofit organization, but our CEO made $20 million last year." Well, I wish I was the CEO because I didn't make $20 million. But
I don't make $20 million.
no. But that's one thing you can take to the bank, as I used to say. If you give $1, you're giving $1 to Fort Worth. You're not giving $1 to TGRA. You're actually giving it to the city of Fort Worth and those that are in need. Our mission goal is to put on an annual rodeo and to promote the Western way of life. And also, we kind of add into it, and we're here to help those that can't help themselves. And that's what we're here for. It's not us. It's not TGRA. I'm seeing these faces out here. I see y'all at shows all the time. His dollar and your dollar and your dollar. That's what makes TGRA, is our community, because y'all are the ones that walk up there and hand those $1 at a time. $5 donation. Oh, I'll give an extra 10, or I'll buy an auction house. It's our community that is doing the work, not just TGRA or the court or the Bears or the Leatherman. We're all in the same boat. It's y'all that I applaud, is our community.
So you touched a little bit on how for anybody who's a fan of rodeo, how many people have been to a rodeo, gay or straight? All right, a lot of people.
Cool.
So you're familiar with traditional rodeo events, calf roping, bronc riding, all that good stuff.
Holes, barrels, flag.
So how does TGRA kind of balance the traditional rodeo events with the unique aspects, shall we say, of a gay rodeo?
We throw a little in the mix. We throw a little extra stuff into the soup.
Mm-hmm.
We have a few events we call camp events. And that's where our community can really get involved, because you could be a member of TGRA and you can participate in the rodeo and never get on a horse, never ride a bull, or never throw a rope. We have calf roping on foot, and we'll teach you to rope, and you stand up there and the steer comes out and you rope the calf and you get a time and you get a ribbon or a buckle or whatever your time is. But we also have our other camp events, which is, sometimes I'm afraid it's even too queer for me. There's a team of two, there'll be two teams, and they'll be standing in the middle of the arena. Down a little further is haydock blocks or some cinder pieces of steel or something, with usually a drag queen sitting on it, with a rope tied to it that's tied to a goat. Now, when the whistle blows, these teams run down to where the goat is. One of them grabs a goat by the hind legs, raises it up. The other one puts on a pair of underwear, and then they run back across the line for a time. It's called goat dressing. So that's a little different. You don't normally see that in your traditional track rodeos. And we also have what is called steer deco, which is the steer is in the arena, in the chute, and then there's two team members. There's a rope tied to the steer. They open the gate. He comes out. They have one guy runs down there and grabs him around the horns and holds him and tries to hold him still long enough for the other one to tie a ribbon around his tail. And then once he gets the ribbon on there, he runs back into the chute and waits. And as soon as the other competitor, his partner, gets the rope off of the horns and turns the calf loose, he can tag and time out and get a time. That's called steer decorating. So you're not going to see that in a traditional rodeo, but my favorite one that you're really not going to see anywhere is called wild drag. These are drag queens. And they're not drag queens. These are actually guys, but they have to dress up as a drag queen or as a woman. There's 3 people to a team. There's a man, a woman, and a drag. The woman stands at the chute, holding the rope. They open the chute. The steer comes out. The man can run up and grab the rope. They've got to get it out to the center of the arena and across the line. Once they get out to the center of the arena and across the line, then they get their drag person, whether it could be a man or a woman, it doesn't matter, or they, whatever, doesn't matter who it is, but they have to be dressed in drag. They have to get that drag queen up on the back of that steer and back across that line for a time. And it's actually probably one of our biggest crowd drawers. You know,
Yeah.
always hold bull riding to the end on a regular rodeo, which we do too now. But we put wild drag right there with the bull riding because this is a crowd pleaser. Everybody. Now, if y'all want to come out to the rodeo, we have a new thing that we have started in the last 5 years. It's called community goat dressing. So you two could decide to be a team. It doesn't cost anything. You come to the rodeo. You pay to come in the rodeo, and you're up in the stands. And then when we start community goat dressing, y'all can come down into the arena as a team and compete and put underwear on the goat. Now, you'll have a blast with it. Now, the thing about it is some of y'all may have noticed the buckle I wear, which is this is my rodeo director buckle, but you see the cowboys, they wear the buckles for the different events. Well, the team that wins on Saturday and the team that wins on Sunday, all four of them get buckles. It will be the same buckles that we give out to our contestants for bull riding and all of that same type of buckles, but you actually do get to win a buckle if you're in community goat dressing. And it's just to give you all a chance to be a part of the rodeo and be a part of our life.
I'll bring up a couple of examples of buckles. I didn't get a chance to put them into the PowerPoint, but the IGRA site has some amazing examples over the years of previous buckles from the Dallas, all the different Texas rodeos. Yeah, that's one of the things that fascinated me too. When I was just doing some research, some general research on TGRA way back, was reading stories in Star Telegram over the years, and that every single story seemed to be talking about traditional rodeo. And then they'd always went to goat dressing. I don't know why it was either that or wild drag, but usually goat dressing. As the one thing that made it stand apart from your traditional rodeo. So TGRA has been known for its charitable work and community service. Can you highlight some of the causes or organizations that have benefited from TGRA's efforts over the years?
Like I said earlier, right now our charities are LGBTQ Saves, the Samaritan House. Like I said, this year we're bringing on and giving Finn's Place a opportunity to be one of our recipients for our donations. Cancer Society. There has been several. There's a couple of places one place over in Weatherford that takes in retired horses. We've given to them, and because they're a nonprofit too. And it's just old horses that are just not going to be able to do anything but be yard art, which I think that's the way most of my horses are now. They're all yard art.
Yard arts?
They're not making me any money, so they must be yard art. And then Wish for Wings is another one. There's been so many over the years, and it rotates. We try to look at the organizations. We always helped help. Help always helped us. Thank goodness help is gotten to the position now where through the government help. They don't need our help like they used to, but they still do.
They're helping us, actually.
Yes.
We got a grant from Help.
Help is
for YesterQueer.
phenomenal. They give to our rodeo every year. They sponsor the Mr. and Ms. Cowtown pageant, plus give money to the rodeo. And then they'll have their band will be out there doing HIV testing at the rodeo. They will be there. So Help has been one of our recipients, and they've been one of our recipients, and we've been one of their recipients. There's just been so many organizations over the years, like I say, Wish for Wings.
Every AIDS organization that's
every
outreach centers, Marathon House.
The Outreach Center and AOA, AOC. I don't know why I got AOA. AOC, that have been really big with them over the years. We kind of look at it like Help. We still give to Help, but Help doesn't need our help as much as the Samaritan House does,
right?
Or Finn's Place, or LGBTQ Safe. So we divide that money up a quarter. We try to look at it in our meetings and say, they're really struggling this year. They're having a hard time meeting their goals, so that maybe we'll funnel a little bit of more of that money towards them rather than to Help. Not because Help's not doing great. I applaud Help. Don't go home and tell your better half, Mac, what they're talking about Help. They're a great organization, but luckily they've become financially stable where they don't have to have as much help as they used to, like some of the other organizations.
So what do you think some of the goals or aspirations for TGRA has for the future?
Its goals are just to continue with our work in our community. Our goals are to promote the Western way of life, put on our rodeos, so that we can help our communities. That's our main goal in life, is to help those that can't help themselves. That's our goal. Get bigger and better. This year, the rodeos in Denton, which it's been there for the last 7 years, 8 years. Next year, it is actually moving to Austin. It's actually moving to Bastrop, 20 miles outside of Austin, between Austin and Houston.
So for the last 7 years, it's always been in Denton?
It's been in Denton.
Oh, that's okay. That's rotated.
No, and it's because of the same problems that they're having, the same problems that we are. I'll spend $40,000 to $45,000 to put this rodeo on in Denton. To put the rodeo on in Will Rogers, it would cost me right at $200,000.
Wow.
Because they have priced themselves out of our market.
Yeah.
And it's just, we'd love to be back at Will Rogers. And if you've got a millionaire friend that wants to underwrite the rodeo, I'll be more than happy to have it there next.
I thought gays had expensive taste.
But that's the reason why we're there. That's why Austin isn't having one. And unfortunately, the Cow Palace here in Austin, that was a great place. And if we had the rodeo there for a while, until somebody bought the Cow Palace and he said, "Oh no, you're not putting the queer rodeo in my Coliseum." And I'm not going to say his name because he's very famous and very Western singer, probably one of the most well-known Western singers. Now owns the Cow Palace and won't let us have a rodeo.
Anybody know his name? Anyone?
I'm Googling it. Huh. I'll have it by the
George
end.
is Googling it.
I'm not going to say right straight up what his name is.
Oh, you're not going to say it.
There's no way I'm going to say it.
I thought he was one of our.
Disappointed.
What a shame.
No, he's not straight up gay, no.
Then
I
him
didn't say
or him or his God.
But that's,
There it is, fellas.
but then again, you have to take into consideration, he may be gay friendly, that individual, but he has a reputation. And you can't be gay, well, you can now, but before, you absolutely could not be gay and be in country music.
Right.
That was a taboo, big no, you didn't do that. So he has a reputation that he has to uphold too. So that plays a lot into it. It's not always how he may feel personally, but what society dictates.
Was he the one that fought back on the Bud ban, Bud Light ban?
I
Or
think,
was it?
no, that was Garth.
It was Garth Brooks. Yeah.
Garth,
Garth said, "Screw it, I'm still selling Bud Light."
and he still will champion
Yes.
the gay community.
Look,
Yeah.
But
We need Garth to buy an arena.
It's his generation, you might say, of country music that is making that change in country music. A lot of people don't know, I can now watch CMT Live. The guy that hosts CMT Live, he's family.
Oh,
And he's very open, and he doesn't. He's very, very open. So there's a change there too, just like in everything else. It's coming around.
well, like you look at Old Town Road. I hear, I'm not sure, but I hear Lil Nas X. Yeah. Lil Nas X. So is there anything that you wish more people knew about TGRA or the gay rodeo scene in general?
It's pretty much what we've gone over today. I want everybody to understand that this is your community. These are your neighbors, maybe even yourself. When you need it, you come to us. If you've got a problem, you know somebody that has a problem. Maybe they can't get food. Maybe we can't give money directly to that individual, but I can sure give money to the food bank and direct them that way. We want you to understand that this is your community. It's TGRA, it's the court, it's the Leatherman, it's everybody's community, but it's your community. We got to stick together and we got to help one. So if you have a neighbor, a friend, a family member that needs help in any way, see one of us at TGRA, and I'll guarantee you, if we can't help them directly, we can get you to the right people that can, and we will do our best to help those individuals.
And finally, for anybody who's interested in getting involved and wants to learn more about TGRA or events or how to support the organization, what's the best way to do that?
They can go to the link, which is TGRA.org. Remember, it's org, not com.
Mm-hmm.
.com will get you to someplace in Idaho that's a golf tournament. But it's TGRA.org, www.tgra.org. That'll take you right straight to our website, and then on there you can navigate around the whole website to see our whole history. And that's what I was going to say. I looked that up when we were out there a while ago. This is our 41st year of TGRA, this rodeo. But actually, this will be our 47th rodeo.
Wow.
Because from 2002 to 2009, we put on 2 rodeos a year.
Right.
We did one in the spring and one in the fall. So this is actually, we're pushing 50 rodeos that we have put on this year. And if you really want to know, I have cards and business cards. I'll pass these out to y'all. Take them on your refrigerator or whatever. On the back, there's a QR code. You can get all the information. It'll take you right straight to our website. This is also promoting our rodeo, which is April the 13th and 14th at the Denton County Fairgrounds, at the North Texas Fairgrounds, in Denton, Texas, right in downtown. So, but you can scan the QR code. It'll take you to our website, give you all of our information. You can find out anything you want to about TGRA, who our board members are, who our members are. You can't find out some things. I'm telling you. And then, of course, the front of it is our poster this year for the rodeo. So y'all feel free to take these. I'll bring them around to you in a minute.
Yeah, and we'll also put that on our social media too for anybody else. These are I've managed to pull these off the TGRA page. These are some of the pins that they had. None of I think I have these two maybe. The other ones I've never seen before. But
Those are, did you pull them off the side or do you have these?
I pulled them off.
Okay.
I don't have any of
The
these.
Big D Rodeo and the Alamo City Rodeo 06, those are actually conchos.
Oh, they're conchos. Okay,
Yeah,
cool.
they, like on my belt, these
Mhm.
round conchos. We give those to all of our different people during the rodeo. We give those out to our officials and staff. We actually have a guy, Rick Jones, which is the judge, and he has every concho since we started putting them together. He has not missed one Texas rodeo, and those are actually conchos. I think this is a button, and that's a button. This is.
I think it's a button. It was in the pin section.
It's a
It looks
pin.
like a buckle, but
These are called trooper pins.
I have several of these.
I'm hoping that the manufacturer can get them to us in time for the rodeo this year. But like if you come up and volunteer for us and you work our rodeo, we'll give you a trooper pin. Or we're coming out and helping us and volunteering at rodeo, which y'all are welcome to do. Scan the QR code electronically. You can fill out the deal if you want to come up and participate and volunteer. Volunteer for 4 hours a day, you get in rodeo free. But that's one way you can become involved with the rodeo. Then you get to see the rodeo. And then you'll get, if we can get the manufacturer that makes these, we're having trouble getting them shipped in. Hopefully we can get the trooper pins this year. I don't hope we're going to be able to get them to.
And if you'd be interested in volunteering to work at the Houston, going flashback, the YesterQueer table, we're going to need all the help we can get to man that table. We're going to be at one of the vendors, so we'll have a lot of our items and stuff on display. But right now, I'd like to open up to questions. Does anybody have any questions for Mac? Come on at all. Come on. I know we pretty much covered everything.
Point out something.
Mm-hmm.
Back in the 90s and even early 2000s, before all the internet was readily available, whenever you would attend the rodeos, quite often they would still have straight rodeo people participating to win the money. But the biggest factor was they said never to take pictures or video record these people because they didn't want proof of being there, because then they would be, whether they were gay or straight or whatever, they would be banned from the other rodeos or harassed from people.
Actually, and the photography rule went a lot further than that, because back then there was a lot of people that would search those out and get those pictures or those names of our contestants, which a lot of our contestants still write under an alias, because they would find them and make sure that their boss knew that they were a part of the Gay Rodeo Association to get them fired. It was a big deal. And we're still asked that you be very mindful if you come to the rodeo of who you take pictures of. And you will hear during the events, especially in the rodeo, they will say, no photography, please. And that's because we're respecting that person's anonymity to not be publicized. So, you know, if you want to talk to some of the rodeo contestants, this and that, before you say, hey, can I have your picture, make sure it's okay with them. And check with them and see that they're okay with it. A lot of them nowadays are. It's not like as bad as it used to be, but yeah, it was, there was a time when we had to restrict all photos. Of course, we didn't have photos that you could put out in 3 seconds. You have it out across the nation. You had to wait 3 weeks for the Kmart down the street to develop it.
To her point, though, one of the things that I always liked about the gay rodeo was you did. I mean, I think all the rodeos have had straight participants.
There's a lot of straight people.
Yeah.
Yes.
The people who love rodeo, they just want to go to another rodeo.
Most of our bull riders are straight, actually. We have a couple of those diehard. Lord, they're too old to be riding bulls. Yeah, they're still out there and they're still doing it. I grew up and got smart. I found out something though. You know, I wrote them as a younger man, but I have found out something I didn't know. Do you know that nowadays they make dirt harder than they used to? It's a lot harder now than it was when I was 20 years old. I don't bounce like I used to.
Speaking of, have you ever had any serious injuries?
I got smart, got out before I got anything very serious. I've had my nose broke a couple times, a bull slapped me in the face. I've had some scrapes up with my legs, and that was probably my last ride.
I broke my collarbone.
I was married at that time too, and had a child, and got somewhat injured. And I thought, you know what? There's an easier way to make money, and I got to feed a kid.
Yeah.
So it changed. Kids change your perspective on it.
I'll take your word. Anybody else have any questions?
Yeah.
I was in KGRA up in Kansas, which I don't think around anymore, but I recall in the throes of the AIDS crisis, it was the lesbians who came into the rodeo and did things where it was like, well, women don't belong in the rodeo, what are we doing here? And they really stood out and helped us a great deal. And I wondered if you could share any experiences you had here.
It's a great question. He's asking about the role of lesbians and women in rodeo, which was traditionally a male sport.
Well, it was a stigmatism. Now I'm dating myself, but it was before my time. But in talking to my dad, like barrel racers, those were all men. Flag racing, all of the rodeo events were men's events.
Yeah.
Up until the mid to late 40s, and the women were the rodeo queen. That was it.
Yeah.
But they wanted to start participating in the rodeo, so the men decided, okay, we're going to give the women the barrels, the flags, the poles. That's going to be women's events. Men cannot compete against the women in those events because it wouldn't be fair, because the guys are a lot better than the women. Okay, I'm quoting them.
Somebody calm down.
But now that's changing. Now, in PRCA, which is Pro Rodeo Cowboy Association, you still cannot ride barrels. A man can. That's still a woman's sport. Everywhere else you can. The BBR, which is Better Barrel Racing Association, the American, which just got over, which was in AT&T Stadium. I'm sorry, it was in the Ranger Stadium. It doesn't matter. Men can compete against women. We are now seeing women bull riders, women steer riders. There's a lot of those traditional men's sports that the women are now participating in, and it's great because there has been a time when they've actually helped us keep our rodeo alive by having those other events and allowing women to come into them. So there's been a big change.
You make me feel bad, Mac. I rode barrels.
Well, you know, there was and you may have seen it, the American just 2 weeks ago, the American just ended up, and a man won the American on riding barrels. $1.2 million that he won for 13 seconds of work.
Yeah.
Literally. So he was, when he got up on stage, there was, a lot of the cowboys were giving him that bad look because he was a barrel racer, you know, and he's a man, and they were giving him the stink eye and all this and that. But then the next day on social media, you see all of these team ropers and all these macho cowboys. There's like 20 of them in the arena on their roping horses trying to figure out how to get around those barrels. And he's like, 1.2 million barrels. So,
Well, I just found that they also got involved in the administration, the board, and all those things.
Very
When
much
we were crying, HIV, you know, that I noticed they stepped up just like they did all the other fundraising.
Well, and then who did you, and it's a constant reminder, who do you think was taking care of all those guys? It was the lesbians. The lesbians stepped up because
Very much
they
so.
weren't contracting HIV. We were, and it was, they were the caretakers, even though we treated them like shit for a long time. A long time. You what?
Break out the toilet paper.
but you know, the lesbians, and also you just don't realize how much they do, the women do for our organization. Probably, I'm going to say 40% of our board is women right now. And yes, they did step up during that AIDS crisis when all the guys were running up in hospitals. They stepped up and kept that's what I mean by keeping the rodeos running, by taking over these events and running them and doing things that the guys just weren't capable of doing because of the HIV and AIDS. They really helped us a lot. The women and the drag queens. We wouldn't be here today without them. I'm sorry. You can talk bad about them all you want. I don't know. But that's where our money comes from. Those girls like us a lot of money. They really do bring us a lot of
Our
money.
entire movement comes
Yes.
from.
Yeah, it's yeah. Don't be bad now. My drag queens now. We'll have to fight.
Any other final questions before we wrap up? All right, before we close out, I just want to remind everybody we have be a absolute shill for a second. We have YesterQueer shirts available finally for $25 with the logo on the back. These were designed by the lovely and talented Georgie right here, who designed our logo. So let me know. I've got my own sizes if you're interested. Any?
When's the rodeo?
Yes. When is the rodeo?
April 13th and 14th.
14th?
At the Denton County Fairgrounds.
And is it free?
No,
What's it cost?
it's $15 to get in,
Okay.
but that's all day. I mean, you come in, gates open at 8, they close it when you go home.
Right.
And you'll have a full bar, session stand, the rodeo all day. Then Friday night, you can come up now. Friday night is free to get in on Friday night, and that will be our TGRA royalty competition, which we will crown our Mr., Ms., and this store TGRA. That pageant will be going on Friday night there at the main stage, right in front of the bar and the concession stand. And that is free to attend. Then Saturday morning, the gates open at 8, and they go until the rodeo's over, and then until the party's over and the entertainment's over. And that usually lasts at 10, 11, 12 o'clock at night. So you get a lot for your $15.
Take an Uber.
Or at least until the next event starts the next day.
Actually, if you go to our website, if you want to come up and stay the weekend up there, you can go to our website and look on hotel. The Holiday Inn Express is giving us a real good bargain. If you book your room through TGRA, they're at the Holiday Inn Express. They're in Denton, $109 a night.
Right.
Plus tax. You know,
Right.
the government's got to get their part. But yeah, you come up and stay. If you have an RV, you can come up and for $35 a night, you can stay on the grounds and bring your RV and stay up there with us. We still have a few RV sites.
That's great.
Those are just $35 a night, so that's cheap.
A bargain at any price. Well, thank you guys so much for coming out tonight, and let's hear it for Mac McMillan for coming out here.
Thank y'all for being here tonight. Thank you for having us and giving me the opportunity to kind of talk about it.
Absolutely. And it's also special thanks tonight to Jenna Hill Higgs, the owner of Liberty Lounge, as well as Kyle R. Trentham, our tech guy. Karina Oliveira puts it out on the interwebs, and our buddy Andrew Nicholas, who is also helping from afar. Thank you guys for coming. Be sure to tip your bartenders. Buy some more drinks. You don't have to go home. So stick around. Thanks again. See what we do on the Teen Center if you want to volunteer.
Yeah, I have any questions. I'll be here the rest of the week.
Okay, you know me. I want to be rodeo.